Do you have anything?
Yeah, I just
He
got
probably
it
has two.
backwards.
No. Yeah, I think he's good, yeah. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, July 17th. My name is Scott Bugby. To my right is Jim Lehan. To my left is Jeff Palumbo. To his left is Jack Hathaway, our town administrator. And filling in for Marion Harrington is Suzanne Jacobson. I also want to remind folks here in the audience tonight that this meeting will be audio and videotaped. So when you address us, please take a microphone and make sure the green button is lit. Jack, could you read us the agenda?
Sure. Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, July 7th. 7 p.m. First order of business, we have a public hearing for Dedham Street Realty LLC of 242 Dedham Street, a flammable storage license. At 7:10, we were scheduled to have an executive session. I believe that's, Scott, we're not going to have the executive session, right? No. Okay, so we can remove that from the agenda. 7:15, we have the Human Resource Director, Scott Bragdon, in, talk about policy discussions, DPW Director contract, and taxi license discussion. 7:25, we have Chief Bushnell to talk about call firefighter status, followed by Town Administrator report and a number of discussion items.
Okay, 7 o'clock, we're going to call the public hearing to order.
Okay, public hearing notice. The Norfolk Board of Selectmen Licensing Board for the Town of Norfolk hereby gives notice that a public hearing will be held under the provisions of Mass General Law Chapter 148, Section 13 on Monday, July 7th, 2014 at 7 p.m. in the Norfolk Town Hall, Meeting Room 124, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Massachusetts, on the application of Dedham Street Realty LLC, Norfolk, Massachusetts, to amend the license to increase gasoline stored underground from 24,000 gallons to 50,000 gallons on premises located at 242 Dedham Street, Norfolk, Massachusetts. Respectfully, the Norfolk Board of Selectmen.
Great, thank you, Jeff. And do we have someone here who's going to represent the applicant? Or what?
Yep. So we're the owners. John Primpus,
Bill Glowopoulos, Chris Glowopoulos.
Welcome, okay.
and we have our gas operator here too, Yatco Energy.
Okay. And so you're looking, what is it, I see Chief looking, what's the reason? I mean, is it just,
Well,
you can come up, sir.
the gas operators are looking to, to order to get more gallons, to get like more bulk, so they can be more competitive. Obviously get less deliveries. We don't want to have like trucks coming in and out every other day. So that's like the primary reason.
Okay.
Did you guys want to add something to that?
I think, like how John said, basically the more storage you have, it costs you less in hauling product to the station. And secondly, if pricing going up or going down, you can have more control with your pricing by being, very competitive in the area. So
Okay.
that was one of the, more reasons we doing that.
Okay, yes.
A question for the chief. Do you know the capacity, what's the capacity of Daly's tanks?
We Daly's 30, two 12s and a 6, I believe, or 2 12s and 832. It's in that area.
So around 30?
Yes.
Do you see any issues with expanded tanks of this?
No, the purpose of the hearing is the town is required to grant a license under MGL Chapter 148, Section 13. When Mr. Quaglieri owned the property, he was originally licensed through the Board of Selectmen in accordance with the regulations for the 24,000. The new owners have since come forward and have asked to have that increased. The increase, as far as a fire safety situation, really doesn't have any impact. We're talking about underground storage tanks. These are double wall containers. The containers themselves have an interstitial space which is monitored. The vendors under the regulations that are in place both through the Department of Fire Services and the DEP require that container be monitored. The monitoring system is a better root system using a trade name that monitors for all conditions, in moisture, any sudden release that is shown within the interstitial space is picked up right away. I think under the last license, there was a concern by one of the property owners on Dedham Street, was concerned about a release, whether that be a subsurface release or a surface release. And I think one of the things I talked about at that point is that the surface releases, there's not a lot that we can say about from the prevention standpoint. Obviously, the Motor Carrier Association that provides the tanker trucks, the MC306 cargo containers that offload, I'd like to say that's a very safe industry. I think when you look at it industry-wide in the Commonwealth, you see very few instances where there are problems. The means in which the motor carrier delivers the fuel provides for excess flow, shut off, so that in the event someone falls asleep when they're making a delivery and a hose becomes separated, that line will shut off. Subsurface releases are virtually unheard of in double wall containers. The history the industry has, whether it's a Xerxes, Owens Corning for fiberglass used to be very big in the business. Their track record is exemplary when it comes to that. Again, it goes back to the overall maintenance. The containers themselves are required to be reviewed third party every 3 years. A report of that third party inspection is provided to the fire department, and that's a very involved process, because what they're looking for is to find out what the resistance is in the tank. They actually measure measure the amperage on the container to ensure that the corrosion has been limited to minimal at best. And I believe the containers that we're looking at here are probably going to be what's referred to as a buff hide container. Now, it will be a coated steel tank containers from what I've learned from the applicants.
And how many containers is it in total, would you?
It might be, yeah, 3.
30, 10, and 10.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah, please.
Yeah, just a question for the applicant. I believe there is an agenda item tomorrow night at the planning board meeting to change the access from Route 1 from a single point, a single driveway to 2 driveways. Could you just update us in terms of the number of islands, if you will, for the fuel pumps?
So
Because it's been quite
I'll
some
give you
time.
this. You'll probably get this from Betsy tomorrow, but I can kind of go over it. So, when Mr. Quaglieri had come, in front of the board about a year ago, he had requested to have 5 pumps. The building was a little bit bigger, so what we're proposing to do is we're downsizing the building so we can have more of a queuing and more space around the drive-through. We're actually eliminating one of the pumps and actually widening the pumps so cars can get in between, so it's not too congested. So we're actually going to be trying to add a one-way entrance and then a one-way exit. So when they exit from the drive-through, they can exit either onto Sharon Ave or they can exit, onto Dedham Street. So we're trying to make the flow of traffic a little bit better. We visited, I don't know, maybe like a half dozen sites in the past couple of weeks, and we feel that that's the best flow of traffic. The way it was done before was a little too congested, and we felt that it just wasn't going to work.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, given the direction of the drive-through, et cetera. It should complement that layout, yeah.
If anybody knows about traffic, it's what I went through in Norfolk.
What you went through, what we went through.
So trying to just get it right at the first shot.
It's appreciated.
I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. Okay. Any other questions? I'll open up to the public. Any questions, comments? Yes, sir.
Michael Dunn.
Can you grab a microphone, sir? Sorry, it's for the at-home people, not for us in here.
Fine.
Thank you.
Michael Dunn. I own the land next to on Sharon's Ave, for Sharon's Ave. And I'm just concerned about how much more space the tanks are going to take up. Is that going to affect my lot as far as my septic that's got to go in the building?
Okay, good.
The tanks are going where they are already proposed in the plan, so they're going to be going in the same exact spot. So they shouldn't be.
But are you adding one more or 2 more? I mean, I think it's question.
Well, there was 3 that were already there. So we're not adding any tanks. We're just increasing the gallon of one of the tanks.
But they're bigger.
So
Right, one of them's bigger.
I mean, they're bigger. Yeah. So is that?
one's
wider?
30,000,
Are
one's
they
10.
bigger deeper, or are they bigger wider, or both?
Both.
They are bigger, actually. wider. They're bigger, wider. So basically, we're trying to get a, keep it as a three tanks, get one, well, actually, we might be only doing 2 tanks instead of 3. So we're thinking about doing a 30,000 gallon tank and, a 10, 10 and a 20. So it will be a split 20 tank for 10 super and 10 diesel.
So maybe 2 tanks.
So
then.
instead of going actually 3, we might downsize to 2 bigger tanks.
So, Mayor?
Yes.
Two questions to this gentleman's issue. Are we any closer to his property than we were under the old plan?
I don't think so. If you look at the plan, it's not going to be any closer. Actually, it's
And
going to be coming
Just
in.
as a preface, that's not before, unfortunately, that's not a board issue here. I'm just trying to get clarity for you. That's the planning board's.
Actually, it's going to come towards the station, towards inside the station, and not going out of the station.
So the expansion will go away from his property, not towards his
Absolutely.
property?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because basically, you're going to have bulk heads, so it doesn't matter. The bulk head will be the same positions where they are, but the tank will be coming inwards and not actually expanding out of the station.
Okay.
So going back to when the project was originally presented and approved, you had the setback from the back of the building to allow for the drive-through, and there's a block wall, basically a retaining wall, and I'm assuming your property is on the other side of the retaining wall. So that retaining wall is not moving laterally or vertically, I think is what I'm hearing.
Staying where it is.
Okay.
Okay. Does that help, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none? Can I get a motion then to approve?
Move to approve.
So moved.
Yeah.
Second.
I'm sorry?
Close the hearing first?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I move to close the hearing. Thank you,
Second.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hearing is closed. Thank you, Chair. And then we have a seconded, all those in favor of approval?
Aye.
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 Congratulations. Thank you.
Good
Thank you
luck.
for coming.
So thank you, guys.
Good luck.
We look forward to your project.
Yeah. It's gonna be up next week. I'm ready for a new coffee spot and a new gas station.
Now, this new drive-through design here makes it awful hard. We really
So it's good. I mean, Jack gave me a set,
But he doesn't have a
maybe
set.
somebody else's.
Now we're-
I have Sue's.
Oh, yeah, I see it, yes. It's down here.
Yeah.
He might come back, okay.
I hope he does.
You know, yeah.
Hope he does.
Thank you. Mr. Bragdon, do you want to join us up here?
He does.
Yeah, that's a great place again. Good question.
Really good man. Hey, Mr. B, how are you?
Great, how are you?
I think I'm good too, sir.
I look forward to going to get gas there. It's gonna be handy.
Yeah, that's true.
You're about in the middle
Yeah,
between the two of them, yeah.
But
So
when you come through that
depending on whether you're in a left or a right mood, you can go either way, huh? Okay.
Well, it's great business.
Okay, Scott, what do you have for,
Support dailies myself, but it's fine, you guys do what you want.
I support both. I'll support them equally. What do you have for us tonight, Scott?
So I have 3 things. I'm with Jim and with Cole, we're suggesting a small change to the human resource policy. The call firefighters are currently, the practice has been that they are getting increases like full-time employees, and they are not. We don't do this for anybody else. So in fact, we're getting call firefighters that are making more than regular firefighters. And these are, and these are per hour, and these are temporary employees. So I have a brief change that we're going to add to this, which Cole has seen, which basically, I'll read it. It says, salaries for call firefighters shall be reviewed and set periodically by the fire chief and the human resource director or town administrator based on market conditions and the fire department budget. Call firefighters do not automatically receive cost of living raises or step increases. So, we're not intending on dropping people's salary or anything, but
This is a going forward measure then?
this is a, yeah, it would be effective your vote.
Okay.
And, yeah, going forward, and then, Cole's very much in touch with the other towns, et cetera, and we'll see what we're doing with the market bear, so we're not trying to hurt anybody, but we also don't want to get their pay out of line with
We're just
We're
trying to take the
full-time.
automatic component out.
No, I understand. I didn't know if that would make us less competitive, because I know we have a hard time
A little
finding
further
call
than that. It's a little more
firefighters.
than
We're
that,
more,
though.
yeah, we're more than competitive. That's not the issue.
You're not, you're taking the automatic component out, but you're also giving discretion as to establishing the salary scales. So it's a little broader,
Right.
which, and when Cole and I visited on this, and I brought it back to you, makes all the sense in the world. Yeah.
As opposed to the passage, it was
All
just a
for
set.
this.
It was, well, it's just, so this automatic thing, the same
Right,
thing
yeah.
that all full-time employees get, but they're not full-time employees. Some of them don't work every month. Some of them work 3 hours a month. Some of them work more, but,
It's a glitch.
There-
It's a mistake,
yeah,
in my
it,
opinion.
it, they should be handled in a special way. We don't do this for any other special employees.
Okay.
And so we should handle them the same way, and
I have them in my office. I'll bring them
Okay.
tomorrow. too.
All right, great, thank you.
Jeff, do you have any questions?
In terms of the budget impact, minimal, right? In terms of how you approach the budget for fiscal 2015.
We're looking to really reevaluate the call firefighter situation in Norfolk. I think one of the things that I personally am concerned is to ensure that the people that we have on the call force are giving us what we're looking for. I mean, their hire should be to be supplement to the career staff. They should be available at nights, holidays, and weekends. And we've experienced some staffing problems this year that are more difficult than in years past. And I know I have this banter with Deputy Chief Petrucci going back and forth, but it's my assessment that this has been a very troubling period of time. And certainly, if we'd had the ability to put the 13th person on in July, I think it would have given us some ability to be more responsive to emergencies. But that being said, I had a very lengthy meeting with Jack prior to the holiday, and we reviewed, I think, every aspect of where we are in terms of overall staffing, both career and call. I think we came up with some very good ideas that we're going to try to move forward with. And I think that it'll give us an opportunity to really look at, future where we are. I mean, the one thing that I've talked about since last budget season was we can't just literally throw money at this problem. I would like to be able to come back, as I've had the 10 years I've been in Norfolk, with empirical data to show you, what it is that we need and why we need it. Right now, I can only identify a problem, but I don't have the overall solution for the problem right now. And in moving forward after our discussions, as I said with Jack last week, I think we have some options to certainly explore. We're going to have a tough period. Right now, over the last 10 days, we've had 3 cardiac arrests. During that period of time, we had to use the Millis Fire Department this morning at 4 o'clock because we were short. The other cardiac arrest, we had one person come back. We had a report of a structure fire on the Thursday of last week on River Road. We had one person come back. We called Franklin and Millis immediately. Fortunately, it turned out being a false alarm. It was a smoke condition in the basement. We had a back-to-back medical on Friday. We had a motor vehicle accident on Union Street 4 in the morning, followed by a medical. We needed Rentham. I mean, we've come up with a number of stopgap measures. Primarily, if the deputy and I are unavailable because of vacation or being out of town, we're hiring back a 4th person. When I'm away now, we're hiring back a 4th person. So over the past 5 days that I've been away, we've had 4 people working. And we have to do that simply because we need to ensure that we're going to have some response. And folding that back into the call side, we need to be able to build a pool that we can respond with. I think the business plan that we put forward over a year ago for covering the station each time the ambulance responds is truly foolproof. from the standpoint of operations, but what we need to do is strengthen the pool of people to bring back so that we maintain, we've worked very hard for is minimum staffing of 24/7. So moving forward with the call situation, I think would help. And one of the things that we do need to do is certainly bring that salary issue into a more amenable condition, in terms of how it reflects, as Jim said, with our career staff.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I know you're going to talk about a good PR for call firefighters, but, I mean, this issue's been around forever. And I don't know how many times we've tried to find the silver bullet, but we can't even find the gun, so I don't know how you can find it. But one of the things that, since you and I talked last week about this, that I was thinking about, and if I'm off base, tell me, because you've got far better background on this, obviously, but it seems to me that we need, it's expensive. I mean, there's a cost to bringing on a call firefighter. And we bring people on, and we don't get a return for that investment. That's part of the issue,
correct.
and it's been there for a while.
Mhm.
So it seems that we ought to have more of a defined or contractual kind of relationship with people that become call firefighters, where there are minimum standards. Like you've got to respond to us, and I'm just wild thoughts, Cole, but you got to respond to 25% or 30% or 50% of the calls.
Precisely what we're looking at.
And
precisely.
if you don't, you drop them, and it's by contract. And even for existing call fighters, if you've got folks now that don't come back, and so they're of no value to the department. And
More importantly, the minimal value to the community. I mean,
absolutely,
that's the most
well,
important.
one and the same. And so is that something we could sort of build into this, in that we have, and it applies to the existing folks as well.
And we have a corollary on the career side. We talked about it when we brought the last hire, it was firefighter Brady into the department, of moving forward on a contractual basis with them so that they're here for a minimum of 3 to 5 years. And if they leave us before then, of setting up a reimbursement schedule to ensure that we get something back. You saw the slide of what it costs to bring somebody in. $8,000 is an awful lot of money that we gamble, and bringing call firefighters in sometimes is like going to the casino. You're rolling the dice to see what you're going to end up with. It's not a good way to run business, whether it's the private sector or the public sector, and we need to come up with a better way of doing it. One of the things we talked about in dealing with Jack on this issue was to bring that cost down to the absolute minimum of what would it take to bring a call firefighter in and get them into a formalized training. And we can basically identify it's a coat, a helmet, bunker pants, boots, a hood, and gloves, and that basically gets them started in a training format. We'll have that ability down the road when we hit January, when the federal grant kicks in and our gear arrives that we've ordered under the federal grant, which the deputy was able to write and successfully for us. So that'll give us some leeway, but we're struggling to get to the time where we're seeing snow again and the sun is gone.
I would really like to see us work on a contract where
And-
there's an agreement.
And I think that's one of the things that was certainly that we need to do moving forward, because that way they do have representation. In my conversation with them prior to leaving for the holiday, wasn't one of acrimony, but I think they were a little taken aback that they were looking for them from a standpoint of accountability. I mean, we've had a lot of discussions with the career staff. And I've had an epiphany dealing with on the career side, is that career firefighters are here, and they serve well for their shift. And when they leave at the end of their shift, they want that free time with their family. They want to be able to leave the area. They don't want to be hounded by the fire chief calling him on the cell phone saying, we need some help down here. They will come back when they have the ability to come back. And when you look at childcare, you look at family commitments, I mean, it's the only job out there, and they have not said this to me, but I've said that to them after I've had this epiphany, is that, it's the only full-time employment where once you leave 24/7, you could be recalled here to go back to work, and you need some of that downtime, and we make sure to replace people on overtime. There's a great schedule in terms of overtime compensation when they come back. The union was very amenable when we started the ambulance recall at 2 hours instead of 3. So we have a lot of that format in place, but we do need the supplement. And what we're looking for is we're looking for the younger people in the community. Unfortunately, I don't want to term it as a draconian method, and we do joke about it with Jack quite a bit. It's the Jack Hathaway draconian method of joining the fire department, but it's what we need to do. We don't have very many options here to make this happen. What we're looking for is we're looking at people that are willing to train upwards to over 300 hours through a formalized training program, whether it's in Stowe, where we've been in consultation with the Fire Academy in Rhode Island to see if we can put people in their academy for firefighter 1 and 2. We've had some more discussions internally. We've had some other career staff come through that are now certified fire instructors to try to see how we could work that out. But we need EMTs. So you're looking at somebody, we're looking to bring some people in that are willing to train for that period of time. On top of that, also obtain an EMT, which will put them in another 80 to 120 hours over the line. It's a big commitment, but unfortunately, it's the world that we live in. We can't bring people in for support staff, and this is a discussion that we've had internally, that we don't have the capacity to bring people on board for support. We need people that are ready to treat patients. We need people that are ready to operate the fire apparatus. We need people who are ready to actually perform fire suppression activity. And we don't have the ability to integrate people that aren't able to function. Big problem. So if there are people out there that are interested and want to make that commitment, please stop down and have the conversation with me at any time. I answer my cell phone 24/7. I get a lot of interesting calls after midnight, and it's part of the job. But as we move forward, I think one of the things that the caveat that we have in place is once we complete that cycle of training and we see some ability to draw on that asset and get some value for it, at that point we can come up with some means of doing a retroactive compensation for that at some level that's going to be amenable on the town side of the budget and with things that we've talked about. There isn't a lot of other ways to do that, and if you look at the other communities around, Rentham is considering mothballing its call force, and they can, because they're getting up towards to 5 people on a shift now. Franklin has long since done away with their call people. Walpole really doesn't have call staff anymore. Foxborough has minimal call staff. They're not adding any people. Other than a Millis and a Medway that are looking to do that, there aren't a lot of career departments in the area that are moving in that direction. And the problem is, and I'll use Chief McMorrow in Rentham, once they come on, once they get the training, they're taking the civil service test, and they're out the door going someplace else. So all of your investment in that asset evaporates at that time. We've been lucky. We have a young lady who has joined us. She was unemployed at the time. She worked with us from July until December, virtually on her own. We tried at different times to provide some compensation. Trained herself, got her EMT. She's now in paramedic school, and she would like to be a career firefighter. She'd like to be a career firefighter in Norfolk, and we would like to see her move in that direction if we have the ability to do so. So those are the types of people that we're looking to draw from. And one of the things that Jack talked about is we can no longer bring in the distant people. I mean, we have a firefighter from Swampscott, a firefighter from Situate. That was a different aspect of our time and our culture. We needed these people because they were a minimum 5 years in 911 paramedic training, and to get our license, we needed that. Those days are gone. We're looking for people who either reside in Norfolk or reside in one of the contiguous communities. We can't operate bringing in people from distant communities anymore. It just doesn't work for us. So, moving forward, at least for the next 3 years, the 2 years and 9 months that I'm here, that's what we're going to be doing. And I'm optimistic. I'm excited about it because we have to come up with a solution. I beat myself up so much over this. Jim knows the number of times that we sat down over breakfast. Jack has become tired with dealing with me on this subject, and and Jeff being new, I don't want to wear you out either. So I've talked to Scott a number of occasions. Again, we may come back and look for the 14th person, but if we do, it will be solely based upon data. And right now, we don't have the data in place.
Question? Sure. How many firefighters does Rentham have?
Rentham is just about set now at 5 on a shift.
How many total firefighters?
That's 20 career.
They have 20 full-time
20
career?
full-time deputy chief, and then the full-time chief.
And we have 13.
So 22.
And
And we have 13.
we have 13.
And their budget, do you know their budget?
Oh gosh, off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you, Jim. In all honesty.
I mean, that's a town the same size.
But they have a commercial base. You have to remember
Yeah,
they have a
Well, I understand they have a
significant
commercial base. So
to
what's
work.
Rentham's total revenue? Do you know? What's their budget? Do you know off the top of your head?
It's,
I didn't think it was way off
I
from
don't think
ours.
it's, I don't think it's above 40, but it's not too much above us. We're 32. But they have the bunch of senior,
But it's
the-
still total revenue, no matter how
Yeah,
you
nursing
cut it. I
homes
mean, no
and-
matter how they get it, it's still, what's the bucket? Irrelevant if it's sources, what's the bucket? I'm just, does it require that level of staffing to just move away from call firefighters for your department?
We're on that line, and it's such a fine line, and I would be hesitant at this time for making a deviation. I mean, when I talk about this with the deputy chief, I mean, one of the things that he beats me over the head with is that, Cole, you can't keep going back to Jack, you can't keep going back to the Board of Selectmen and saying that we need to move to the next step. We need to do this more a systematic basis. You gave us the 13th guy, the 13th position. The 13th position hasn't been filled yet. Yeah, we're having a problem, but we need to gut it out. And draw upon is talked about Jack. We need to draw upon our mutual aid resources that are very willing to help us out during this period of time. Everybody's been through it. We've helped out Rentham back when they had problems with their paramedics. And we made an awful lot of money doing that too. But this situation, it's not where it's a revenue base for them, and they're losing revenue by coming to help us. But it's not an issue. It's a today issue, and I think we're lucky to have the neighbors that we have, our mutual aid partners that are willing to do that, because they know that we're going to work through this both as a department and as a town. So that's it's not an issue.
So-
I would be hesitant. I'd really be hesitant at this point of drifting totally away. I know the discussion when we put the 13th position in the budget was that we didn't fund the 3 call people simply because we need to make sure that anybody that we're expending our limited resources on is going to be available to help us as much as possible.
Well,
and the call staff, it's.
But when we put the 13th person on, we expected that was going to alleviate some of the burden that was being
Precisely.
placed on the call side. So it's not illogical to say that there's got to be a financial trade there, and that we're expending here with the anticipation of a savings here. But I think one of the things, and I guess you put, this is a commercial for folks in town that are staying home, that are, we have a lot of folks that are home during the day that we need help, and it's a great opportunity to, in a wonderful profession, to get into something like this. So it was one of the reasons we wanted you to come here. But we've got to, if this is our lot, the last statement I'll make on it, we really need to formalize this more. The whole thing needs to be formalized more, and a real concerted PR effort to get people in, and people with very specific criteria around who fits into that pool.
It's a very small avenue that we're bringing them down. I mean, we're bringing them in off of 495, and we're bringing them into, basically a Union Street area, so that
But we've never aggressively gone after folks,
No, we haven't.
Cole, and that's what I'm saying, is we need, to, if we're going
We
to
have,
do this.
prior to my arrival, they had a real good recruitment drive, and probably, I would say, at least 5 of the current career staff came from that recruitment, which was done, I want to say that was in the early 90s, and I Pete Petruchik was very, very active in that. I believe that's when it was. But those are people who transitioned over, without question. I mean, the biggest problem, 2004, I come through the door, there's 20, 25 people, and all of them lived in Norfolk. And you've seen it before. And we're down to 18, and there's only six of them living in Norfolk. That's a big part of our problem. And,
Well, let's hope this works.
so we're going to give it a shot. I want to thank the board very much for allowing me to and letting me indulge you in this. It's, if nothing else, it's cathartic for me, and it's very
It's that kind of
therapeutic.
just 7:25 time. 'Cause we didn't do Scott's thing either. Poor Scott's sitting here.
It's a very small piece.
I know, that's-
Giving them the power use.
You want a motion on each of
Yes.
these individuals? I move to approve the new call firefighter salary amendment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Jim, just according to the DOR's website, in 2012, our fire budget was 1.2 million and Rentham's was 1.8 million.
That's the difference.
It's a big difference, 600,000. It's a lot of money, yeah.
It is.
50%.
Thank you, Mr. Hathaway.
Thank you, Chief.
Okey dokey.
Thanks, Chief.
again. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.
Cool.
Ready?
Yes, you're ready, sorry,
So
yeah.
the next, I have a new policy. It's called an anti-bullying policy, which you have in your package, but I have copies. if you
No, we
need
didn't
them.
get it.
No, it's
So-
not, it wasn't in the packet.
It wasn't?
No, Marion said you were
Okay,
going
I
to.
have them. So, you're all familiar with the anti-discrimination policies.
One more, if you don't.
There you go.
All familiar with that. People tend to use that same thing if it is, well, what do you say? Discrimination formally is usually based on race, sex, religion, something like that. And harassment is based on, like sexual harassment, based on sex. But the policies don't really talk about what if a manager is not treating an employee appropriately, making fun of them. They're using offensive language toward them. They're insulting, teasing, etc. So what we've written here is a policy, anti-bullying policy, which protects employees in those kinds of situations. So it doesn't have to be racial or sexual. It can be behavior that you would deem inappropriate and unacceptable from a manager here. And it gives employees a methodology to take that forward and to get it to get it resolved. It is something that comes up on occasion, and this would prevent that. So it's specifically it covers all employees, and I think it's something that's coming around, and I think it's something that we need to do more of. So I've written this policy. So I ask you to approve that. I'm willing to, here to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, Scott, because you kept saying like, if you're an employee, you feel like a manager's bullying you. Is it also just a paid employee? Like if you and I are not, you're not my man, you and I are on equally
Absolutely.
level,
Be employee to employee.
practical
Yes.
joke on me, or just doing what you're saying here. It doesn't matter. It's not a
Doesn't matter,
managerial
you're right.
supervision.
It could be employee versus employee, could be a group
Yeah.
of employees that are picking on somebody inappropriately. Yes, could be
Okay,
anything.
okay. So it's not just a managerial. I'm fine. I think it's a great idea.
I'm good.
Jackie, you take a look at it too? Or is this your first
Yeah,
time? Okay.
So far, so good.
Did you pull this from somewhere, Scott, or you use a little bit how, I mean, is it?
I wrote some of it, I pulled it from various other
Yeah,
places,
okay.
combined them and things, so.
Plagiarism is the greatest form of flattery.
No, I'm just, how he does it. No, it's impressive work. I know that you go to different
Unless you're the
sites.
Mansfield
Yeah,
superintendent.
yes, exactly. That- that's
I move to approve the anti-bullying policy.
second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good job, Scott, thank you.
This is good, Scott, thank you.
Yeah, no.
So the last thing is on-time taxi service is one of our licensed taxi. He was actually, for those of you, well, I guess it was probably just you, Jim, that was here at the time. He was the first one.
Oh, I remember,
that came
yeah.
through.
I think I was here, too.
A good guy.
I think I was here. I had a cousin or brother that wanted to get in
Good
too.
guy. He's got 3 taxis right now under our license. Our policy allows for 4, and he's asked for a 4. So that's why, I'm here in front of you. If you'd like to have him come in and talk about it, we could, but, he is, he services other towns. He can't formally solicit in other towns. He can't go just hang out and solicit unless he has permission from those towns. Actually, he does have permission to go to the Dedham train station, but I've not received any complaints on his service. He's been very compliant as far as getting things done and paying his fees, and he's asked for a 4th license, which is allowed under the policy.
Question, Jack? I mean, if the policy allows 4, why do we even need to act on it?
Well, because you've only permitted him 3, so, but you,
You've only approved 3,
Okay.
so you
We have to approve it the 4th?
need to approve the 4th.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
and you can delegate that to, well, you probably shouldn't I was gonna say delegate to Scott, you should probably just approve it or deny it.
Okay. I don't
What's
have any
the,
questions.
the business, and I apologize, I don't know the history here, but what's the business address? I mean, where's the business operate?
He operates out of his home, actually, which is in Norwood.
It's in Norwood, okay.
Yeah.
They do a lot of business in Norwood too, but, they do work.
I mean, the reality, I think you're getting to the point. The reality is we don't see, there's one of the taxi drivers that we see quite a bit. He's got a minivan, we see him in town quite a bit.
Norfolk Town Taxi.
We don't see him a lot. We do require them that if they are called, that they come pick up somebody. But, again, the reality is, if he sits down there in the center of town, he's gonna go out of business, because there's not a lot of business from Linda's to, someplace else.
This is the bus service starting today too.
So we grant permits with the understanding that if someone calls, that it's their duty to service. the
Yeah.
residents.
Correct.
They understand that our town takes priority. These are our licenses, and take priority.
And if we get complaints, we-
Complaints, but if we were to receive complaints about them taking too long, that would be in violation of our policy. We would do.
Okay. Any other questions? Nope. Motion to approve?
I'll make that motion to approve the 4th permit.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Scott.
That's it.
That's it?
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
I want
Thank
to
you,
say
sir.
Scott did a great job renewing all of our insurance policies again this year, along with the insurance committee.
We saved some money again?
We did. We did. We got.
I don't see me-
Again, from Maya. We had I think it was a $3,200 grant for the schools to do training, safety training. We got a $5,000 grant from them to redo all the cameras in this building, which haven't functioned. We got about $17,000 worth of rebates for various things in the town and changes that we're able to make. This year, one big change is that we have been using VSIS for our insurance for the workers' comp insurance for firefighters and police. As you rightly remember, when I first started here, there was a $50,000 limit on medical. Now, the town is liable for this, whether it's $50,000 or $500,000, the town's liable for this. And God forbid one of them is so seriously hurt. But there's towns having to go out and get overrides to pay for some of these medical bills. So we were able to bump it up to $75,000, came at a cost. But we were looking. So we went to Maya, who has the rest of our insurances. And they have come back through Chubb, and we now have a $1 million rider. So it puts us in a whole different ball game as far as protecting the town. The firefighters and the police were protected anyway because of our
Right.
state
Right.
liabilities
Right, sure.
for that. but it does protect it, and it gives them some other options, and some other payments. So that cost us $1,000 more than we would have paid for the $75,000 policy. So the base policy was substantially cheaper. We paid several $1,000s more to get the additional rider. And to me, it was probably the biggest thing that kept me up at night in all the insurances.
That was our biggest priority this year.
It was. And I really want to compliment, if I may, Mr. Chairman, because this issue has been around a long time, and we've been close
Yeah.
on a couple of situations in prior years where we might have really incurred some major expenses. So this is a big deal. Great job. We'll all rest a little easier now with this,
Yes.
because this has been hanging over
I
us for
think so.
some time.
It's good for our public safety people.
Well
and
done.
Good for the town.
Thank you, Scott.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along. Action items. So we have requests, Jack. I mean,
You have please approve a block party at the Mirror Lake Beach area on August 10th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. They anticipate 50 to 100 residents. They request closing Mirror Lake Avenue from beach to boat launch, across from 60 Mirror Lake Avenue to through traffic. The request tables in the roadway for guests to have a seated brunch together. As noted, Chief Stone has approved this as long as the tables and chairs are of a weight so that they can move quickly for emergency vehicles, because this is a dead-end situation. So,
questions? No? Motion?
Motion to approve the block party at Mirror Lake Beach area on August 10th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. per the chief's requirements.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Jack. What's next?
second thing is and you have a
Flyer.
handout from the Girl Scouts. Please approve a request from the Norfolk Girl Scouts to hold a Norfolk Girl Scout Jamboree and picnic on Norfolk Town Hill on Wednesday, September 16th, from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Parking will be at Norfolk Library, Norfolk Town Hall, and the Federated Church. My understanding is they've already asked for and received that approval from the church. All trash and items will be removed when they leave.
Thanks. Questions, issues? Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Finally, please approve a annual triathlon for the Hockomock Area YMCA for Sunday, July 20th. A portion of the 9-mile bike ride touches through Norfolk. The event begins at 8 a.m. and finishes at 10 a.m. Chief Stone is fine with the bike ride, although if it is a true competitive, he would like to just work out a detail if necessary. And I think I'd ask you that you approve this just upon his working out details with the organization.
Move to approve as recommended by Chief Stone.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. That sounds good. Discussion items. All right. Update on zoning working committee. I assume both Jeff and Jim spent a few hours here before our meeting tonight? Did you? Or
Yeah. Jack was there too?
Jack? Want to give an update, Jack? Or?
Tentative.
Or
So, I mean, the topic of discussion, I think the exclusive topic of discussion here at this afternoon's meeting was the former Southwood property on Route 1A, and a potential developer, George Vallone. He is a developer. The question is whether he's going to develop that property. And so this individual has come before the town on a few other occasions. He's done work in Newark, New Jersey area. And just to bring everyone up to speed, he has basically purchased the land with some contingencies in terms of him obtaining the necessary zoning in order for it to be commercially viable for him to develop the property. That deal is with the Archdiocese. He did say this evening that if for some reason that we weren't able to meet the deadline in terms of the upcoming town meeting, he might be able to still work through it, provided that there is due diligence, what have you. What he said is that he wasn't aware that our timetable was as aggressive as it is in order for us to pull the nuts and bolts of the warrant article together in time for town meeting. But I think, as Jack had said, we don't have to necessarily know everything about it, but we need to know enough so that we could put together, a sufficient warrant article for the town meeting. So it was extensive discussion. I mean, Jim asked some very good questions, and Jack as well. And I guess, with that, I'll just turn it over to these gentlemen if they have any additional comments.
Well, Jim's, I just think the one big issue that, well, two big issues. One, obviously, is what percentage of this property will be residential and what that impact is on the town budget and services, particularly the school, and secondarily, public safety. You're talking about potentially 700 units, families, a lot of them being smaller units, studios and single families. So with the town, he's got to come up with a plan to talk to us about what the financial impact is to the town, how he's going to create those units in such a way that there isn't, a sudden influx of children is the biggest concern. The other big topic of discussion was just the sequencing of, making sure that the commercial portion that he's talking about building, which is assisted living, a medical facility, potentially with Alzheimer's, physical therapy, mental acuity treatment, a health club, yoga room, and 2 restaurants to kind of tie it all together. But how does he guarantee to us that those commercial components will be built, and we won't just have whatever the residential component is without the commercial? So we're going to do some more homework, between Ray and myself. He's going to go back and do some homework, to figure out how we either have an overlay district that kind of requires that sequencing to be done, or how we put it into zoning some other way, or maybe it's at the site plan level, at the planning board level. But we need to, there's certainly members of that working committee that are very sensitive to that and want to make sure that we don't make zoning changes that frees up a piece of the property for residential, and then we don't get, if we want something else, we don't get the part that we want. So it was great. There's a lot of very engaged people on that committee, former selectmen, other board members. It's a good group, so I think we're keeping him on his toes.
Doing a great job. Yeah, I agree.
Just 2 other things I'd add to that. We met with him the week before on a different topic, which is really I want to bring to this board this evening for your consideration, is in order for him to even move forward with this, there is a restriction on that property that says that it can only be utilized as a hospital, and it requires an act of the legislature to remove that restriction. Quite honestly, if we were to do anything with that property with any developer, we'd have to get that restriction removed. So it is in all of our best interest to request that. So we had a meeting last week. Richard Ross was there, and he said he would sponsor that effort. The developer has talked with the speaker and has a meeting, I think, August 5th, scheduled with the speaker to pursue this as well. Representative Dooley was not able to attend that meeting, but has chimed in, I believe, that he is supportive of this as well. So George has asked that the Board of Selectmen issue a letter expressing our support to have this removed, so that you have all parties in agreement. I asked this working committee this evening if they were in concurrence with that, and everyone was fully supportive of that. And in truth, it's, I don't want to say a no-brainer, but it's pretty close to a no-brainer, because we can't do anything with the property as long as that restriction's there. So it doesn't disadvantage us as a community in any way to have that restriction removed, because it's still totally controlled by zoning.
It still could become a hospital if we wanted to. If someone wanted to walk in and put a hospital there.
Well, the only thing that land can be used
Now is a hospital.
is a
But
hospital,
you
and
remove
that
it,
isn't
it's
going to
still-
happen.
Right,
So,
but you never know. I mean, if we remove it, it can still be a hospital, I assume.
Oh,
if
sure.
Someone
Oh, yeah.
walked in
Yeah.
and wanted to put it in.
It's just got- it just-
Norfolk Community Hospital.
Yeah.
It has a state-level deed restriction on it that
Right.
says it can only be a hospital.
so I would ask this board to consider that and to vote to have Jack prepare a letter expressing our support to have that restriction removed.
So
In fact,
moved.
I will make that a motion.
Second.
Second.
Yep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll have
Yeah,
that for your
thank you.
signature tomorrow night.
And the other just comment, I have, there's a lot of questions here on this project, a lot of issues. I mean, Jack said 700 units. Well, is it 700 or is it 300?
Yeah.
Because it's an attached, all of those questions I found the working committee has really been really good at bringing forward the concerns. I think the conversations have been very good. They've been very free-flowing. I think George is willing to listen. Obviously, he has his own agenda, as any developer does, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think at least at this point, we're all trying to find common ground to see if this makes sense. I think the critical component is the financial analysis. And he is committed to bringing back to us at our next meeting, which I think is in 2 or 3 weeks, I've forgotten which. 3 weeks, a first run, if you will, of how he sees the project and what the financial impact of that will be. And that will be a basis of a really good discussion, I think. So, because in his words, not mine, but I think all of us would say the same thing. If we have a $2 million expense and potential usage between schools, fire, public safety, whatever it might be, and we get $1.2 million worth of revenue, we got a problem.
Yeah, doesn't seem to work. And not for us, at least.
Kind of a no-brainer there.
Yeah.
So we've got to be sure that however this ends up, that we're on the plus side, not the negative side.
I guess the other thing that was mentioned was in the area of utilities, that particular topic, and he said that in terms of water, there was an agreement with the hospital, and perhaps if it were to be a hospital in the future, there might be some requirement that the prison
Yeah,
supply, but
it's-
he's going to approach the Department of Corrections and see if there's interest in terms of him purchasing, the development purchasing water from the Department of Corrections, and if that falls through, he would pursue that through the town of Walpole, because we have some issues in terms of water availability of our own at this point in town. And in terms of sewage, he said that he's going to pursue this situation with the MWRA that regulates and supports the town of Walpole, so he's going to pursue that as an alternative to a package plant, which he estimated at $2 million, which I seem to see, heads in agreement with that estimate. And the other thing that he said is that, he's pursuing the zoning with us, the zoning changes, regardless of these details, but made comments to the extent that, his investors would not go forward. At some point in time, they wouldn't go forward unless all these things were in place in terms of, that infrastructure, that the utilities being available. So it certainly makes sense from a practical standpoint. So that was one of the other, I think, more significant things that were discussed.
He's been receptive to the concerns. Now, whether he can find solutions to
Right,
them, we
needs
we
to
know
know
the
anyways,
issues.
yeah.
The issues, I think we know pretty clearly, is whether we can come to common ground on solutions remains to be seen.
Somebody's phone was buzzing, I don't know, wasn't mine.
On mine.
Somebody's phone was just buzzing.
No, I think he's telling me mine was, and he doesn't.
I don't know whose it
like
was,
my
I just
phone,
I didn't want anybody miss an important,
Yeah.
she had something important to do.
But I think this group, Jeff, you were there tonight, and Jack, you've been there for 2 of the 3 meetings. I think this group is really, I think this is turning out to be a really good thing. There's good dynamics, it's a good diverse group of folks, some new blood
Yep.
in the process, and sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. This one seems to be working.
Ray and I are going to go down the path of looking at the MWRA too. I mean, I certainly, my gut reaction is I have some real concerns if he's bringing the MWRA into town, because that will also, that could just have a lot of state impacts, and our water withdrawal. There's just a lot of unknowns there. But that's,
I think, honestly, that to me is going to be his biggest hurdle, is water. He can solve the sewers. He can do a treatment plant. We've got 2 of them in town now, 3 if you count the prison.
yeah.
He can solve that. But we can't supply the water he needs for a development that size.
Yeah.
Cannot do it.
Yeah.
So he didn't mention the third option tonight, which is a well.
Right.
So that's the hurdle to me. I mean, there are others there. I don't mean to suggest there aren't others, but this is the biggest jump, because that's the biggest problem. If you can solve sewerage, let's just make the jump of faith that the financials all work out, and, you know, and the size of the buildings that he talked about tonight, Jeff, as you remember, dictate, you know, you're not going to have 5 kids moving into a studio apartment.
Hopefully.
So there are ways of controlling that, especially if you do it in some format of overlay kind of component where you have phasing or sequencing of things, which we got to figure out. That water one is the one that I think is going to be tough. Because I'm with you. I don't think the prison's going to be an option. Just my gut reaction, knowing a little bit of the history with that.
Yeah, I mean, they have
And-
water shortages themselves.
And the MWRA does present issues to us. So we'll see how it all works out.
Yeah.
How about anything, Jack, on the Buckley and Man that we had on the discussion?
Ray and I met with that, how did you term that? That proposed developer?
Is that a new term? We got a new term?
Well, I like
Go on,
that.
Mr. Palumbo.
I guess it's
Planning
not
board term.
not a proposed developer, but a proposed development. And he took some feedback from when a working group had met, a roundtable, I guess it was, had met with him, and he took that feedback and changed some of his layouts of what he's proposing. He's not prepared to, I think he's working towards coming back to that zoning working group to tweak it again, to come up with a plan for what he's thinking, because he's obviously still thinking for the November town meeting as well. So Ray has been, trying to encourage him along, and I was impressed, and I think actually John Weddleton sat in on part of the meeting, and I think he was the biggest skeptic of the original concept, and I think, I don't want to put words in John's mouth, but I think he at least saw a lot of improvement from Plan A to Plan B. So that'll continue to move forward, and Ray's going to try and schedule him, Mr. DePlacido, onto to that zoning working group as quickly as he can.
Water is an issue there, too.
Yep, water's an issue. I mean,
I think it's, bottom line, it's an issue throughout town.
yeah, and we had a resident complaint last week. I'm sure we had several, but when they sent out the message about the water conservation, asking people to not use sprinklers, et cetera, we had someone challenging us on that, and what are we doing to resolve it? Well, we've been working on resolving it for a long time, and the biggest solution we've had over the past years is, we've reduced that unaccounted for water by from an obscene number to down to the 6 to 8% range. So Mr. McGee and his team deserve a lot of credit for that. And while doing that, we're still looking for the new sources, because we have our biggest issue right now is just redundancy. That if one of our wells failed, or became siltated, or clogged, or for some other reason when it had to go offline, that's when we run into a problem. And we've got backups through the other towns. They're not going to support us for long periods of time. So we're working on trying to get a third municipal well up and running as quickly as possible, and we have some avenues that we're going down to get there. The resident that reached out, not directly to me, but to some of the DPW staff, was frustrated that they can't water the lawns with town water. And the reality is, even if we had more water available to us, the DEP doesn't want people watering lawns off of municipal water systems. If you want to do that
Get well.
on an aggressive basis, you've got to put it in your own well. So you're limited to 65 gallons per day per person, and that goes pretty quick when you're doing laundry, cooking, and showering.
And for those at home, the state does regulate this.
Oh, yeah.
And we can, you talk about having problems.
Yeah.
We can create some major problems for this community if we start getting in excess of what they require us to do. And it's not just a simple slap on the back.
Nope.
or in the back of the hand, I should say.
wrist, yeah.
Yeah,
The wrist,
it's
the back.
it's a big deal, and so
Yeah.
we have to regulate this,
So it's,
irrelevant of how much source we have.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that I think isn't understood. And every community around here right now has a water ban.
Oh, I
Always
think-
have. I
I-
think it's Mills, everyone,
Every-
Halston.
I think every
community.
community in the state has a water,
Everyone in the state
water
has it,
ban.
probably, yeah.
To the degree that they publicize it is one question, but
Right.
if they are permitted by DEP, I can guarantee they have a water
Yeah.
ban, whether it's odd even or complete limit. So, and our bylaws are, pretty clear. You cannot be watering your lawns. You cannot install a water system, going back to when that bylaw was put in. You cannot install a water irrigation system on a municipal, based on the municipal system. So, unless you had a system that was installed prior to that bylaw,
You're going to get me going again.
well, that's fine. Go right ahead.
This really troubles me, and I'm not troubled on good or bad.
Yep.
Whether we allow them or don't allow them is not my point. It just troubles me that we have a bylaw that we absolutely ignore. And we ignore it. We know we probably got 300-400 systems, if not more. Most new homes built today put in irrigation systems, and they're all in town water. And the two things that concern me about it is, one, they are not permitted correctly. There's no inspection process to an irrigation system that's put in a new home, correct?
Well, since they're not legal, there's no
Yeah,
inspection.
so there's no inspection process, so there's no backflow component to this. So if something gets into that irrigation system, whether any type of problem gets into that irrigation system, if they don't have a backwash system, and I think I'm using the right term.
Backflow, yeah.
That flows into our water system. That concerns me. And so either we say, okay, you can have them,
But they have to be
but they got to be
permanently-
inspected.
Right.
They got to be permitted. In fact, everyone that's got one now should be inspected. Or, get rid of the bylaw. I don't, I'm not advocating for or against.
Yep.
It's just that we are looking at potentially creating a problem of our own making by ignoring it.
And we're not, I agree to a point. Are we going around and ticketing people who have
No.
irrigation systems? No, we're not. But we've developed the rate structure so that people
but-
are encouraged not to use those.
But it doesn't, for someone that, you say that, Jack, but are they paying the bill?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, to some folks, that may not be an issue. It doesn't solve the problem of the risk, because we have a rate structure that rewards us for people using their water. It has nothing to do with the risk. The risk is irrelevant of rate structure. You have a system that's installed that is not inspected, okay, that probably doesn't have the right prevention from something reaching back into our water system. That's my concern.
And I don't know, I don't want to jump to that conclusion that it's not being inspected, because when we're going out and doing inspections, like changing meters, that's when they're finding these things and making sure that they have backflow systems. So I don't want to, no, it's not. Is it being inspected when it's installed? No. If it's being installed illegally, obviously not. It's not being inspected. But when we're going, I don't want people to also think that, there's 1,000 irrigation systems out there that aren't being inspected. One of the reasons why we change meters in houses is so that we can get in there and look at irrigation systems that are illegally connected and don't have backflow systems.
But at that point, we don't make them remove
We
them.
disconnect it if it doesn't have a black backflow system.
If there's a backflow system, we let it go on. Even though violates, to Jim's point, which I'm not saying it again, same with him, because one of them,
If the Board of Selectmen wants to take an aggressive point and direct us to go out and have everybody remove their irrigation systems,
No,
we can do
I'm
that.
not saying that. I'm not saying that, Jack.
Okay, well, I guess I'm
I don't
asking
know-
for direction then, unless, I mean,
wait, I don't know, he doesn't know what else to do. I mean, they're doing what they can.
it's
Like you said,
a
one-
politically very sensitive issue, so,
I mean, I would say, I guess if I could pick any solution to this, I would say just inspect, if we can identify where they are, inspect them. Make sure they're put in correctly.
well, then we should change the bylaw then.
Oh, I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
I mean,
But does the state then, doesn't this go, I
it's,
mean, we can't let them use the water.
you're not going to
even
go
though-
around and, I mean, we got too many of them. You're not trying to create a crazy system here in town. you have a water system that you need to protect, and to your point, when you find it, you ensure that it's right or you disconnect it.
Yep.
Okay? But you're finding what? 5%, 8%, 9%, 10%?
So I don't understand it. So you think people are just going to come forward and say, I want my
Well,
irrigation system?
we have a system where we can tell.
You can, I don't know this.
Well, you just look at somebody's water usage, and,
Yeah.
and either they have a pool, or they have a...
Or they have an irrigation system.
Or they have an irrigation system.
Right. It's not hard to tell.
Yeah.
They have good data to know that.
You know it, but again, not to be draconian or.
I don't want to go knock on their door.
All right,
and
so
say
they have
this-
to, so you're
that's
going to
not my
encourage
point.
them to come forward because we have no proof. You can't, again, I know, I agree with you. It's easy to figure out either they have a pool and irrigation system, but then you asking them to admit that and come forward, or that doesn't give you cause to go inspect, right?
I'm not,
I don't know what the
guess
answer
at what
is.
the
I
legal
just know
ramifications are, but
there's, and I don't, for folks at home, I don't think this is a huge exposure issue. I mean, but those backflow systems are there for a reason.
Yep.
They're there to prevent anything from getting through the irrigation system into the town water supply, right?
Yep.
Okay. And we know that there are a lot of systems out there, I think we can assume, that there are a lot of systems out there that do not have that.
I would guess you're probably correct.
Okay, how can we start checking out
That's
the
my
place? Just
concern.
start back, I mean, again, not that we have to name names, but can you get an estimate, or at least one that, you guys already know how many water users there are. Can you give me a number then of how many you suspect or either have a pool irrigation system, so we can kind of get a
I can
number?
get that data, yeah.
I'm just curious, like they said, if we have 3,000 water users, I'll be, either number, I'm curious if it's
I don't
900
want,
that
I don't
you
want to
think?
create a, political firestorm in
I
town.
don't- it doesn't
That's
matter to
not
me,
my
yeah.
agenda. I'm concerned about protecting our water system.
Right.
Nothing more,
I wanted to
nothing
start to
less.
know what we have to go to protect.
That's valid.
Nothing more,
I don't
nothing
know
less.
anyone can
I'm
argue
not
with
trying to
that.
go after people with irrigation
The-
systems.
So the question is how?
Yeah,
do we
just
protect
how do we be sure that we're not,
Quality of the water
that
system.
we're not ignoring a problem that could really have a
So-
dramatic impact on our water
You know,
system?
maybe we all need an education. I mean, I'm assuming it's a check valve outside, the home, is
Yep.
basically what's, I think, used to do that. So then the question is, what are we comfortable with in
I mean,
terms of
I have an irrigation
verifying-
system. I'm on a well. I have one of those systems on mine. Even though I'm on a well, I have a backflow system so that if something happens, it doesn't get into my water, or poison my well.
So we need to, figure out what we're comfortable with in terms of how we can, as a town, verify that check valves are in place. I mean,
It's just, we just, it's not, it's something that has been troubling to me, and we just kind of don't do anything about it, and I, believe me, I do not want to go out and knock on doors and get everybody worked up over irrigation systems. This is just kind of common sense to me. If you got it, fine,
Well,
but
that's-
let's
see, that's the
just be sure
pro-
it's done right, that's all, just.
That's a passive, that's passively saying, or even saying that we allow, like, if I'm a new guy, if I have money, I'm gonna come in with my new house, and I'm gonna get an irrigation system, and I'm gonna inspect it, and like you said, I don't care about the rate differential, I'm just gonna irrigate to my heart's content, that's what we're saying here.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe maybe I misunderstood something. When a new house is put in, we're inspecting the water system.
Right.
And there's no irrigation system put in. It would have to be,
After the fact, as soon as the inspection's over, though, I'm gonna have my plumber come back in.
Which is what's happening.
I'm sure it is, I'm just,
But now, because what we're saying here tonight, though, if that's, I'll gladly admit it, after the plumbing inspector comes, I'll have my new plumber come back in and put my irrigation system, fess up the town, make sure I have a backflow, and gladly pay the rate differential. But that will suck our water system dry, you know what I mean? There's not, like Jim said, there's enough people that can afford that in certain house ranges that will, so that it goes back to, what do we do? I know,
Our job is to ensure that we protect
the water.
the community.
Right,
It's not
that
to
means that-
hassle people, it's not to
No, but
harass
that's protected
them. I mean, that's,
to
somebody will think this at home, I'm sure, there's this conversation. That is not my intent or agenda. I don't want to hassle anybody. I just want to be sure that we don't ignore a potential problem that we could do something about, that could be really a problem for us. That's all. That's our job.
But it also is not to protect the water, it's also to ensure the supply of the water system too, besides,
Well,
we're
yeah.
trying to keep that in check too. But I understand, the first worry is, like you said, don't want to taint it, but you also have the limited supply we have, right?
Right.
So we have to protect that too. I mean, like you said, I'm not here, one, because I have a well too, and I'm too lazy to even try irrigation. I wouldn't water my lawn anyways, because it dies out anyways, and it comes back, right? That's what they tell you in all the water tips. Don't worry about the brown lawn, it will come back. It's just less mowing.
It's just dormant.
Yeah, if you ask me, it's less mowing, right?
Well, you know,
Absolutely.
folks buy expensive homes, and they take pride in their yard. A lot of
As they
folks
should.
do. I mean, we
Yeah.
talked about that at the meeting, about the pride of ownership
Yeah.
and owning your home, and I understand, you know, I mean, people put a fortune into,
They can put the extra fortune in and get a well, though. That'd be the question. But then
Well-
again, private wells will eventually
I
suck the water
understand.
supply too, so it doesn't, you know, but we require.
anyway,
it to
I don't know what to do about it. I just
Fix it.
actually-
That's what he's telling you.
worry about it. Believe it or not.
All right. Let's start with some numbers. I think, I mean, just a number of, you know, one, how many do you think, you know, heavier than normal dishwasher, washing machine, dryer, whatever, you know, whatever you said is the use. Does that cover what we want to talk about in irrigation systems? Is that kind of-
I'd say I've done it more than adequately.
No, no, no.
Thanks.
It's hard because there's no answer, though. It's the
Yeah.
same, there's no, it's like call firefighters. There's no easy answer.
You
There's
pulled
no
me right
easy-
into that. I didn't,
Sorry?
you pulled me right into that. I didn't even think I forgot about that on the agenda item.
And then we had CPC article request.
Thanks for being such an easy target.
That's my job.
Somebody's got to do it.
Is that yours, Jack, on the CPC article request? Or-
Well, that was
No.
me too.
All right, Mr. Irrigation, okay.
Had nothing to do with irrigation.
I know, I'm sure.
No, it's just a follow-up. I would like, if, I don't want to do it individually, I would like the board to consider requesting CPC to bring forward a couple of articles to provide some financial resources to conservation for them to pursue getting some of our land marked. Have any of you been down towards Franklin, towards the Catholic Church?
Yes.
And seen that new park that they've built on that little lake down there? If you haven't, you should go, because that's what we should be doing.
That's the mark, yeah.
I mean, you know, you've got a nice board there which shows the trails, it's identified, and so on, and that's not CPC's job, you know, that's not their role. I just, Conservation did a wonderful job on the playground over and back of the H. Olive Day School. I would just like to see CPC, if this board, I mean, I'll go to the meeting and request they consider it, give money to, I've talked to Conservation, they are willing to take on the responsibility. Question is, we don't know amounts, but we could start. But we should have something like that over in Franklin. We should have it at Highland Lake. We should have it over here at our new recreation area on Rockwood Road. We want to do the trails all through there, which is all wetlands anyway, so who better to figure out how to do that than Conservation? And as opposed to this give and take and all that. Let Conservation undertake that.
Yeah,
So-
you're right. I mean, most of it's under the custody of conservation anyway.
yeah,
so.
so I would just like to request that we ask CPC to consider that for the fall town meeting.
But you don't have an amount,
And
okay.
the community gardens, for example, you know, let's get these going. Let's get these things done.
Because didn't CPC have an article, or part of an article, and they pulled it up for a trail map? I mean, it wasn't everything that Jim was talking about just now, but for doing some trail maps and stuff like that, or, you know.
My point is this, though, see, I don't think CPC should be doing that,
Yeah.
okay? That's not, CPC is the bank. They're the banker.
Yeah.
And you know, and they, God bless them, they have taken on responsibilities of managing projects that really isn't their role. You know, so what I'm saying is, you're the banker, let the people that have the responsibility have the funds, and they'll get it done.
Like they do with the housing for you guys, for the
Yeah,
housing.
they'll,
affordable housing.
exactly, they don't build the houses, they don't handle any of that, you know, and Sue handles it all.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, CPC shouldn't be overseeing putting trails into that playground. I mean, they got to go to conservation to do it. It's a redundancy, and it creates, you know, just more work, more time, that if we just give the funds to conservation and say, hey, it's yours, guys, go for it. Look, how long did it take them to do that playground?
Took a while.
Huh?
I lost count. It was a while.
No, the playground in back of HOD.
No, he's talking
Oh,
the Cundy
I'm sorry.
Forest.
I thought I was thinking
Yeah,
the
no,
other
no,
one.
Because
no.
they owned the land. It was conservation land.
Yep.
So once they got the funding, bang, that thing, quick.
All right, well, I guess.
This took a year and a half.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
that's the one I
and I don't mean that picking on them. That's not their job.
Unless they
You know,
wanted
they've got to
it,
go
unless
to
they
all
don't,
these
yeah.
boards. They got to go to recreation. They got to go to all these. It's crazy. Give it to the people that have the responsibility
Spread out
and
the
the job,
burden, really.
and let them get it done.
Do you do it in a way where at least there's an expectation that Concom is going to, you know, listen to the vision that
Oh,
was part
absolutely.
of the CPC project from the beginning? 'Cause
Absolutely.
Usually there's a trail component from the very beginning to a lot of these projects. So
Yep. Actually, the trails are there, for all intents, I mean, there are already drawings of those trails, already done. It was done with the original plan. And there were some issues with it, because it crossed some wetlands that, they were proposing building bridges and so on, and things of that nature. So there's a plan already in place for this, Jeff, that was part of the original contract when they hired, I've forgotten the gentleman's name. But he did a great job, but there was a whole layout. The gardens, everything was all laid out, and they funded it in phases. And the first phase was obviously the playground and the parking and all that kind of stuff. The second phase is the garden and the trails. And what I'm saying is, rather than them having to oversee that project and work through all of these boards, it's conservation. That's their property. Let them do it.
I think
And
Jeff was
so-
just trying to say, as long as their vision, again, unless they.
Their
there's no
vision,
answer for
sure.
CPC unless they feel like that it's
Absolutely.
their money, it's not their money because it's the taxpayers' money, but I mean, if they feel like they need to be there controlling
I
it.
think, if I can head it off just a little
Yeah.
bit, I think one of the things Ray talked about when we first hired him was, we need to update our master plan, but we also need to update our open space plan, and that would include putting trails through these properties, and I think that would be our
Absolutely.
guide to follow.
Yeah, I think that.
Absolutely.
And, my thinking is, to my knowledge, the Board of Selectmen has a role in terms of trails, right, in terms of.
Well, right now, that property's under us. We have
So-
not transferred that to conservation, so we own the property.
So, what's important to me is that, these folks, they give their time and their best efforts and such, that they're working together. They're trying to work together and, listen to one another, the boards and such. So I think we provide that, service to ensure that
Yep.
that's going to happen, regardless of who has the,
Yeah.
the purse. so
Yeah,
to
This
speak,
isn't
right?
in any way reflecting on CPC.
I know that. I know that.
In no way am I
I know that,
suggesting
Jim.
that. I mean, those folks have done yeoman's work.
I know that.
In this
they might feel
playground
that,
thing,
yeah.
I mean, Cindy really did a phenomenal job in overseeing that project. But that's not really her job. That's all I'm saying, is that if the land, they have to go, and I'm thinking specifically around trails and Highland Lake and other, Weaver property.
Yeah.
That CPC has the vision. They had the wisdom to see what they wanted this to be, and they presented that plan and the town approved it. Now, it's implementation. And so I'm talking about the implementation component of that. You've got a plan for the old Gumps Farm. We got it. Here's where the garden's going, here's where it's there. And phase one is done, and it looks beautiful, and it's really being used, which is great. I'm just saying phase two, if CPC, in my opinion, would we be better served if they enabled conservation to take on that project
I agree with you.
and
with that
get it done.
explanation, I mean, I agree with you, yeah.
That's all. Just, and so I would like, if the board agrees, who's liaison to CPC? Oh.
There you go.
If the board agrees, I would just suggest that our liaison, perhaps, approach or go to their next meeting and make this suggestion that, get a hold, I'm sure they can talk with conservation. They have the plan. We can get some guesstimates. They probably already have. I think they do actually have some costing guesstimates on that. But let the article fund conservation to get it done.
Shit, he's conservation.
Did I,
Yeah.
am I,
I'm conservative. Am I
Making sense?
CPC too?
You're a CPC as well.
who
Got
is?
it covered.
He is,
Me.
right?
Yeah. I got both.
Thing
Yeah.
of beauty.
Thing of beauty. It's over
Yeah,
three.
you're double duty.
I double duty. I can go to both. All right.
Well, this is a good.
Do I make
No,
you sense?
I
know
get
you do.
Yeah.
You do.
No, it makes sense. I get it. I just, like
That's
you
all I
said,
just
the only
wanted to
concern I have is, again, they feel like
Please, don't
if they have
go.
different visions, right?
Anyone
Like,
at home.
I envision,
they've
like,
done
if-
yeoman's work.
if-
I just
But
want
you're going to make sure that's not going to happen.
Exactly. If one board wanted it one way, and the other guy says, "Well, I can do it with wood chips. Why do you need, melting blocks or something like that?" And then that's where you could have issues, right? But yeah, we're fine.
Okay.
I'll talk to them.
Great segue. We still have some boards and committees that we haven't reviewed and approved in terms of membership. So I don't know, I'm not suggesting necessarily you need to do that tonight, but.
Well, I don't know, it's not on the agenda, we
No,
can't.
yeah, so I'm just saying that maybe for the next meeting.
Sure.
Maybe that was your intent, Jack, I don't know.
Well,
But I did
one-
get a question on, the EDC, for example, so I think we probably.
That's a joint appointment.
Fair enough, but the question was as far as, what the Board of Selectmen is doing, so.
Okay.
And I am the
Liaison.
Liaison.
You're the double duty there, too.
Yeah.
So we'll do that for the next,
So do you want us to take the lead on that? Is that what you're suggesting? Or do you want, I mean, planning board has 5 votes to R3.
Well, I guess the way it started is, Marion had done some work, and the other members made some phone calls to folks to find out in terms of interest level, continuing and such, so, I think the first step is to just update that, because at that point, at the point this was published, we didn't necessarily have all the input. There were messages left, and so there may be some updated information, I don't know.
I thought EDC, we knew who wants to, I mean, I think they all, with 1 or 2 exceptions, wanted to up.
Yeah,
up again.
Lori
Lori
Scholl
didn't.
had responded.
But I know
yeah,
Bob
so-
does. Who else is on there?
Walter.
Walter does, I'm pretty sure.
Greg, I think.
Yeah, Greg.
He's probably not, I would
Yeah.
think. Yeah. Well, I'll ask.
So what would you,
We'll
I
just,
mean,
we'll ask, well,
what would you like to do? Because we're talking to the planning board here.
Well, I would say, let's see if Marion can just update us in terms of Lori, and then I can do the
Okay.
same thing in terms of get it on the agenda for the planning board, so that we can,
When's your next meeting?
tomorrow night, but, so,
A little late to get that one out, huh?
it's okay. We got time. So,
Whatever your pleasure. The only reason we deferred it is because it was a joint appointment. We didn't have any input from the planning board.
and the capital
And you
outlay
guys
committee
outvote
was
us.
such a similar situation.
Which one?
Capital outlay, I think.
I think Marion has contacted most of the people on
I
those
guess
committees.
Ray and Mary Ann, as of the last.
Well, capital outlay is just exclusively our appointment.
yeah.
Yeah.
But she hadn't heard,
I think maybe because Jeff's the liaison on that committee. Is that why Jeff, you the liaison on capital outlay?
I'm not sure I am.
No,
I
I
don't think
think,
it was me. There was 2 of them. It wasn't
that's
me,
always the
'cause I called.
chairman, right?
It's
Isn't that-
usually, or, I don't remember. Might have been me.
It's Jim.
Yeah, I thought it was me.
So I'm just bringing it up because it was just some housekeeping and then I think some formal actions that need to take place, that's all.
So I'll have Marion put it on the agenda for the next meeting about
Capital outlay,
any,
if she's got the names, we can knock that one off. And we can do, I mean, whatever your pleasure, guys. If you want to do economic development on the next agenda and then turn it to the planning board, because our meeting will be before your next meeting. That's fine. When do those, they expire July? They have expired.
everything is June 30th,
So they have
except for zoning bylaw study.
Which is calendar year.
Yeah, December, yeah.
You do.
Signature stuff.
What do you have first, Jeff?
They do that at the end.
No, she just took my agenda.
Not the agenda. We covered the stuff on the agenda. I didn't know if you had any town administrator report.
Oh,
Marion did a great job last meeting.
no,
by
I
the
did
way.
not, I do not have any,
Nothing to report?
I do not have anything else to report at this time. I'm open for questions, though.
Yeah, sure.
I know it's a little premature,
Yeah.
and your finance department is outstanding.
Yeah.
They do a great job. When might you have a good feel for year-end report?
We should have a preliminary number at our
Better
next
known as free
meeting.
cash.
What's that?
Better known as free cash.
Yeah. At the next meeting, I'll have an inkling
Okay.
that I probably won't tell you, but I'll have. I'll
You have
know
an
what the
inkling?
number is.
We'll have to coerce this out of you?
Yeah, I just don't want anybody to spend it, that's all. Yeah, Julie's done a great job, and she is, end of August is when she's trying to get all of her numbers in. But before the next meeting, we'll have an
Should have
idea.
that certified before the November meeting.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
Jeffrey? Jim, no? When is our, I guess our next meeting is when?
It is on my-
Is it on an actual Tuesday this
It
time?
is
The
on,
20
it's back to a Tuesday.
So that'd be the
Nice.
22nd?
It is the
that-
22nd.
Okay. Next meeting is,
It's a good thing, because my wife's birthday is 21st, so that would have been a bad thing.
no, we would have moved
You
it for
wouldn't
that.
have been
We would have moved it. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Yeah, I asked you, I didn't have anything
I'm
else.
sorry, I apologize.
Yep.
We skipped over Mr. McGee's contract during.
That's
Oh.
what I thought.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, because Scott was supposed to do it, but
Yeah,
yes.
I just,
I put it, thank you.
so I know he had already gone over the numbers with you, so,
Yep.
Want to approve that?
and
then?
there's no other significant changes, but we wanted to just present the contract to you in open meeting.
Okay.
I move to approve the contract.
Second.
And I would add with great pleasure, because I think Bob is doing a great job.
I'll second that, too. He's doing a fantastic job, the whole group. All those in favor of the new DPW? Aye.
And
Thank you.
it's a thankless job, because he'll never,
Some
Be
people
able
say
to-
thank you every once in a while.
he'll
but yeah.
never get to a point where he's going to be loved.
Yeah, he's great. I would third that,
Yeah,
fourth, I think. He's done a great job, and it's been kind of interesting watching Ray and Bob working together, because they've been working very well together. Ray is bringing in, a new vision, a new perspective and set of eyes to some of the things that Bob's involved in, and been very helpful. But it's also been kind of fun watching them challenge each other a little bit,
good.
too. It's
As long as it's constructive.
we were talking about the Pulte Road inspections today, and Petrosi inspections and all that stuff going on, and they've been, they've been working well together. And they certainly, at the end of every conversation, it's a great working relationship. But they do struggle a little bit with each other a little bit too. So it's
Good.
I do have one more item, I apologize.
Just before we go on, do you know if he's going tomorrow night to the planning board meeting? There's some business, I think, that involves. I'm not sure if he's going to be.
I don't know. I can check. I know he and Ray have been having a lot of discussions. And again, I don't want to make it sound like.
Subdivision related.
Oh, yeah.
stuff,
Yeah. They're
offsite.
trying. Yep, we put together. We spent a couple hours together today. The three of us working on the subdivision. So
Yep. I think I know who's.
if Bob isn't there, Ray will be speaking for him.
Good.
Just a quick update, I did, based on our last meeting at Highland Lake, I did go down and see Mr. Roach. Mr. Roach has agreed to allow us to secure the dam.
Great.
And Bob and I are going to go take a look at that tomorrow.
Yeah, I told Bob that I'd like to go too. So
Oh, it'll be a party.
Don't
Anybody
let
else
him
want to join
don't
us?
let him
Yeah,
forget.
I can't post. I wanted to find out where it is. I've never been to it. So
you can do site visits.
Yeah, what
That
day
doesn't,
go?
it's not subject to
Now,
open
we're not
meeting law.
violating any rules. We could all make a group therapy session up there. And
I'll go.
What, you know what time?
Well,
it is?
since I'm
what
not
time do you wanna go?
available,
It's
then
gonna be
maybe
in the
you guys
morning.
can
Has
take
to
a
be in the
video and
has to be in the
have that
morning.
available for my review.
And put it on YouTube.
Okay, whatever works for you guys.
What time do you want to go?
I'm available, so it doesn't matter.
Jeff, can you go?
I'm trying.
He's got to work. He's got to make a living.
Yeah,
Somebody-
yeah, every now and then.
8:30? 9
8:30.
o'clock? What do you?
9 o'clock.
Yeah.
9 o'clock.
9
Well, we don't want to get him in before his working hours.
Yeah. Oh, me or Jack? We're both. 9 o'clock. Where are we meeting then? We'll meet right
Meet
here.
here, and we'll all drive over together.
Okay.
It's a little bit of an adventure to get.
It is an
actually,
adventure.
That side's not bad. It's the other side.
We
That's
need
it.
hiking boots, or what's the clothes required?
9 o'clock, okay.
Sneakers?
Tick prevention is.
Oh, that's a
Okay.
good point.
Yeah. I've already gotten one tick bite.
Yeah, don't go in shorts.
I'm not going to go into shorts. That's a good idea. Okay.
So we can add this to your vast list of work experience, Jim.
Dams?
Yeah, damn. I'll be damned. I'll be damned. I'll be damned.
It'll be on the end of the list, that's for sure.
I'll be damned.
Thanks, Jeff.
Jack, this is your pen. Anything else, gentlemen?
No, I just think we'd
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Your signatures.
like to just thank Susan for covering
Oh,
tonight.
thank you. Yes,
Oh,
thank you,
yes.
Mr.
Yes, Sue,
Jacobson.
thank you very much.
Marion, hope you're
Certainly,
enjoying your
anytime.
vacation.
She
Anytime.
volunteered to do it. We
Yeah.
don't have to pay her. It's great.
And we'll be back on Tuesday, July 22nd at 7 p.m.
I move to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have adjourned. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Be getting all those phone calls tonight about the irrigation system thing.